In our last program, we talked about how the media was playing a part in this New World Order. And we talked about they would change the dialogue. They would make it fit what they wanted it to fit. Now we will be talking about the second one, which is B, silence. Silence those who support their agenda like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or TikTok. So if you don't agree with the government and you don't agree with what's going on, they just throw you off social media. How about this? Unreported thousands dying. And we see that even today. The media creates a stigma of misinformation about those who report the truth. They call it a conspiracy theory. Is it? How about this? 20 food and fertilizer plants destroyed since Biden announced shortages. Now, you got the fact checkers, okay? Fact checking is usually done by the liberals, and they give you, again, their slant. Now, let's look at this particular thing. Fact check food processing plant fires in 2022 are not part of a conspiracy to trigger U.S. food shortages. They've done all the research on that, and it's not that at all. Well, let's look at it. Social media users are sharing the claims that there are planned increase in fires at food processing plants to purposely create food shortages. However, there is no evidence to support this claim. Absolutely none. Zero. Well, let's do our own fact checking. First of all, January 11th, 21, a fire that destroys 75,000 square foot processing plant in Fayetteville. A fire ignited inside the Smithfield Food Pork Processing Plant in Monmouth, Illinois. A 3-alarm fire at Kellogg Plant in Memphis. A large fire at Tyson's River Valley Ingredient Plant in Hanceville, Alabama. How about a fertilizer plant with 600 tons of ammonium nitrate inside caught on fire on Cherry Street in Winston-Salem? And there was a fire at a Walmart warehouse distribution center in Plainfield, Nestle's food plant. Extensively damaged in fire and new production destroyed Jonesboro, Arkansas. A major fire in McCrum potato processing facilities in Belfast, Maine. Then you had a fire destroyed East Conway beef and pork meat market in Conway, New Hampshire. A plane crashes into Gem State Processing, Idaho potatoes and food processing plants. Taylor Farm food processing plant burns down in Salinas, California. 3 million chickens destroyed by fire at Forsman facility in Stockholm Township in Minnesota. Now, you wonder why you were paying so much money for eggs. You were wondering why you had hard time finding chicken and chicken prices went up. Well, this might be a part of it. You see, the new thing or the new terrorist weapon of choice is fire. This is a picture of some Palestinians launching fire bombs with kites. Now, I was in Israel not too long ago, and I saw charred forests where they had set these kites off and the fire started in the forests. They also do that to destroy crops. You see, what happens is this, is if somebody's, say Black Lives Matter goes into a city and they start bombing places, well, of course, you're going to start sending in troops. So they find that if all you got to do is light a fire, and can I tell you something? Fire will do as much damage as bombs. It totally destroys inside. But because it's a fire, it's okay. Not only that, but anti-Christian rhetoric has always opened the doors to justification of persecution. Let's look at history. This is Tacitus in 109 AD. It says this, to dispel the rumors, Nero substituted as culprits and treated with the most extreme punishment some people popularly known as Christians whose disgraceful activities were notorious. Well, he said that because, one, Christians were deplorable and it was justification for extermination. Why? They spoke out against immorality. They said homosexuality is wrong. We don't want to do it. You can't be sleeping around. Oh, that didn't go well with the Romans. They would not conform to the paganism and idolatry of the Romans, and they wouldn't bow down to Caesar as Caesar worship. Now, what does the radical left have to say about Christians today? They say, well, Hillary Clinton said Christians are deplorable. Not only that, but former President Obama said clinging to their religion and guns. Now again, this is not a political statement. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show you how they're setting the stage so that Christians can be persecuted, and it's quite all right. You see, the Antichrist will claim he is for peace, yet he will kill Christians using political policies to do that. We read in Daniel chapter 8:25, and through his what? His policies, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many.
And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer.
Again, in Revelation chapter 6, verse 2, we saw this, and we said that when you hear about somebody riding a white horse, the first thing they think about is Jesus. But again, he is an imitator. You see, the crown represents authority, political authority. So the Antichrist will have political authority. The white horse represents a pure motive. So he'll have a pure motive for what he does. And the bow without arrows represents conquest by peace. Well, Islam claims to be a peaceful religion while they're killing Christians. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, Revelation chapter 13, verse 7. Again, we're looking at how he is going to start persecuting Christians. And by the way, I'd like to stop here because I want to reinforce something. There are a lot of people who believe that we're going to go through the tribulation period because there's going to be persecution. There's a difference between persecution and tribulation. Persecution is when man unleashes wrath upon man. Tribulation is when God unleashes his wrath on man. Am I saying that there could be a persecution going on in America? Absolutely, and it is already started. But that's not the tribulation period. I believe we'll be gone by that time. Now, we talked about the media as being an enemy to Christianity. Now we look at higher education. A recent UCLA study found many college students drift away from their religious upbringing. In the study, 52% of the students said they attended religious services frequently the year before entering college. By their junior year, attendance had dropped to 29%. You know what I don't understand? I used to be the chaplain for the men's basketball team at Liberty University. And what I couldn't understand is why Christian parents send their children to Christian schools so they can learn about Jesus Christ, and here they send their best students to these secular universities, many of them are party schools, and by the time they graduate, they think, oh, my son's going to get a good contract. No, their son loses their Christianity, or their daughter loses Christianity. Let's take a look. Anti-Christian bias in higher education. The radical left in this country is aggressively pursuing a culture war against Christians and Christianity. One of the key battlefields in this culture war is the university campus. This is because the left knows that if it can win on the university campus, it will be easier to win in such other critical areas as the family, Congress, courts, presidency, and the public square. The left is intent on erasing everything you and your church have taught your children and replacing it with slavish adherences to anti-Christian narratives. The liberals must protect their liberal indoctrination at all costs, even if they must weaponize our law enforcement agencies to do so. You remember the critical race theory, right? And all the uprising about that. Well, it wasn't about blacks and whites and things that happened 100 years ago. what they were trying to do, and what they are trying to do through this critical race theory, is to cause division and cause a civil war. And we know what happens the last time we had a civil war. And that's what they're trying to do. A house divided cannot stand. And that's what we were standing up against. Now, what happened when they started attacking, or not attacking physically, but questioning the educational system? Well, let's look at some of the headlines. U.S. Attorney General directs FBI to investigate parents protesting at school boards. Attorney General Merrick Garland mobilizes FBI against threats against school board members. Ohio AG joins lawsuit for parents questioning school boards. So if you question a school board person, you're going to be investigated. They're going to knock on your door. The FBI is going to make sure that you do not question education. Speaking about that, how many remember Betsy DeVos? She was Trump's former Secretary of Education. She was the first one I ever noticed that when she was walking around, she had bodyguards. Now, we're talking about education here, right? Betsy DeVos still faces death threats, needs private security. Over a year removed from government service, former Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is still regularly threatened, requires private security to protect her. My question is, where's the FBI? Why aren't they investigating this? Why aren't they arresting? Again, something you have to understand. Hitler turned the educational system into an indoctrinational system before killing the Jews. Today, our educational system, we spend more money, we send trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars into education, and yet we're still not the number one educational system in the world. But they do know that you need to worship Mother Earth, transgenderism, and other things like that. You got to know that. So it's become an indoctrinational system, not an educational system. The Antichrist must use education to indoctrinate hatred towards Christianity before he is allowed to kill the saints. And again, we read Daniel 8:25, and through his policies. Let's move to the third. The third thing that is being used to stir up trouble with Christianity is activist organizations. Black Lives Matter can burn a church down, and they are justified. Nihad Awad, the executive director of the Council of American Islamic Relations, CAIR, urged Muslim Americans to take up the cause of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is our matter, he said. Black Lives is our campaign. That's from an article, Islam Revolution and Black Lives Matter, Crisis Magazine, July 14th, 2016. At that same conference, Kahila Sabri, another activist, told the Muslim audience, basically, you are the new black people of America. We are the community that staged a revolution across the world. If we could do that, why can't we have that same revolution in America? You see, Black Lives Matter is not about human rights. It's about revolution. Martin Luther King Jr. was for the reform. Black Lives Matter is for revolution. She goes on to say this. The revolution is apparently a reference to the Arab Spring. Revolution which were inspired by the Muslim Brotherhood and which brought death and destruction to wide swaths of the Middle East and North Africa. You see, a black man is killed by the police in America, and it makes global news. Islam kills thousands of black Africans in Nigeria, and you can hear crickets. So the question is it really racism or is it revolution? Christians killed, injured in Arab Spring fallout. Christianity Today. A peaceful Christian-led protest in Egypt turned into a bloody scene Sunday, leaving 25 to 35 people dead and 300 to perhaps 500 injured. The deaths are believed to be mostly Christians. Coming persecution of Christians in the West has started, and we will stop with that, and we'll take this up again in our next session. Well, I sure wish I could get through one segment